Welcome back, everybody. We got another update for you. This time, we've got more stuff because I think we missed a week because I had to do a couple of different things, but we've got the guys, John Reilly out of Hawaii. What's up, John?
Hey, aloha. Nice to be here.
Aloha. And Saul Klein out of San Diego. How are you, buddy?
Hey, it's good to see you. Great to be back.
Mm.
Yeah, great to be back. There's a lot of stuff happening right now. Um, I honestly don't know where to start because President Trump does the State of the Union today, and housing is going to be in the middle of that conversation somewhere. It's just because he keeps on bringing up housing left and right. Um, where do you think we end up with housing in the government? Just to throw that out there first.
Well, so you're right. When people talk affordability, housing is a key element, right? And so, what makes housing unaffordable? And what can the government, either through its economic policies or regulations, do to help make it more affordable? I don't know, but they play a role. So, without getting specific, I think there's definitely a role. Interest rates, of course, when interest rates come down, that makes property more affordable.
Yeah,
Sometimes, sometimes
not all
interest
the
rates
time.
come down, and that just brings more people to bid the price back up, right?
Yeah, that's so true. Well, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. All right. Let me go over my notes with you. You guys prepared. I love this. Let me just pick one. How's that? I want to go with Zillow. Taylor versus Zillow and Armstrong because I just did a video on it. Where are we at with that? Because last I heard, Zillow said, "Hey, you know what? Can we just throw the RESPA thing out the door because we didn't do anything. There's no proof." And the what was it? The 1 year statutory claim was over. And it's like, by the way, that thing's over. Where are we with that? Where do we go? John,
Well,
Saul.
before we jump in, just say that because this is the overriding theme today, I think, and that is RESPA. And so,
Yes.
regardless of whether or not it's Zillow or Rocket Mortgage or whomever it might be, RESPA is a very important law and set of regulations for people who list and sell real estate to pay close attention to because the consequences can be far reaching. So while
Yeah.
RESPA will have a place in everyone's knowledge base, we're about to be taught some specific lessons about it, right?
Yeah.
And in particular, and you mentioned the Zillow case, I'll let John take it from there. But overriding is keep this in mind, RESPA violations have been something we've all been concerned with, going back almost as long as I've been in the real estate industry. And so I remember, and we probably talked about this before, when you would refer your title business to somebody, or you'd refer your
Mm.
escrow business to somebody. Well, and you do it because maybe they did you a favor, like brought you donuts to your sales meeting or put a computer in your office. I mean, like lots of little things that nobody thought much of at the time, but really and truly could be seen as a receiving something of value for that settlement connected, key phrase, settlement
Mm.
connected referral. And now we've got the Zillow case and the Rocket case. And John, you can talk about the Zillow case, but it's like right there.
Yeah, the Zillow case actually was the one I think which was going to draw the most attention because it was filed in September and then consolidated with the Taylor case in November. So it's in full swing now, and we're going to start seeing what some of the discovery results are, in which they are examining the actual practices. involving what the RESPA would call, kickbacks for referrals. And I think what this is going to do is this is going to spur a lot of discussions amongst brokerage firms because most of them are operating under prior office policies, which more or less agents were kind of free to talk to their buyers. They wanted to help the buyers get good
Mm.
financing. So they would participate in the financing information aspects of it. That's all been totally challenged by the RESPA rules now. And all of those need to be carefully looked at. So my prediction is that in this year, we're going to see a lot of action in implementation of RESPA red flags, as I call them. What are the things that agents should not be saying? Because if they say them, it's going to trigger potential RESPA violations. And of course, RESPA violations along with that are going to come into breach of fiduciary duty. And so that's why I think that a lot of brokerages are going to have to use pretty top flight attorneys to come up with and help them with coming up with new office policies that point out the red flags with, with RESPA. So we'll see that
So
a lot of that coming up. In other words, Tristan, I think there'll be a lot of good content for, for
Well,
these
listen, I'm
updates.
convinced now from 2 years ago on, we will never run out of content ever again for real estate. Ever.
Absolutely,
It's
yeah.
just gotten too
Yeah.
complicated now, guys.
well,
We
so
have agents making casual statements to their buyers about, hey, don't worry, I don't take referral fees, but I can get you credits from the lenders. That'll be credits against the cost of the loan for you. Well, right there's a blatant RESPA violations for that, even if the benefit's going to the buyer, the consumer.
so whether or not it's true, what are we talking about specifically with this Zillow case? Because you say the word Zillow and everybody's ears perk up, right?
Yep.
Right or wrong, right? You say their name and everybody's listening. So it, there are people who are accusing Zillow, and has this been certified for class action at this point?
No, that's the big matter, whether or not it is fits within the class action uh, category.
So the accusation is that Zillow's got this program, this Flex and Premier Agent program, and that if you are an agent that sends business to Zillow Home Loans, that somehow you receive a benefit, a reward for it. And the question then is, as it relates to RESPA, is that an illegal kickback? If you get more leads, better leads because of your behavior in this program, is that somehow a violation of RESPA? And are you an agent guilty? And is your broker guilty? And are there other programs similar to this in a way, Veterans United or um, the
Rocket.
the Rocket Mortgage case? And so John and I were having this discussion, and we said if we were still running real estate brokerage firms, we wouldn't let our agents participate in any of these programs without our attorney first reviewing the program and helping us evaluate the potential risk
Mhm.
against the reward.
That makes sense.
Well,
All
we
right.
know that
So,
a lot of brokerages, after the slew of cases we had on antitrust, almost now have retainers for an antitrust attorney to review the brokerage activity. What I see now is perhaps now they're going to add another retaining attorney who's a specialist on the mortgage side, because that's where the class action attorneys are focusing their attention on now is on the mortgage side.
Yeah,
And
I am seeing
that's
that.
going to be an interest for the DOJ as well because of the impact on increasing costs involved with these referral fees.
Do you think that the trend that we're starting to see pick up a lot, which is the real estate agent now is getting an a lender license or working under some type of a bank to get some of the fee that typically goes to the mortgage broker. Do you think that becomes a bigger problem in the future from what you're seeing, John?
Well, I see
Or
the
Saul?
problem is, yeah, I see that problem coming up where inadvertently agents might be acting as uh, mortgage loan officers and thus make them subject to violations of the truth in lending laws. So right now we're just talking about RESPA and Regulation X, but truth in lending with loan origination has its own set of rules, and that's actually Reg Z. Z is in zebra. So I'm going to see that.
Well,
I love
and so
that.
you mentioned, Tristan, dual licensing, right?
Yes.
Well, and so dual licensing does have its own issues and potential conflicts and laws around them, but it's not a new idea. And I probably mentioned before that back in the 1980s, it looked like big companies were going to take over the real estate industry. Metropolitan Life Insurance purchased Century 21. Prudential, which was the
Yeah.
insurance company, got into real estate. Sears, a big retailer, bought Paine a brokerage house, and Coldwell Banker. And so you had this consolidation taking place. And I was listing and selling. I was a broker. I had about 20 agents working for me at the time. And I decided that to protect myself, I needed to have multiple licenses. And so I went out and got a Series 7, which is a general securities license. I
I
got a
remember when you told me
24,
that. Yeah.
right, principals license. I got a 63 to do interstate. Got a life and disability license, became a certified
Saul, why
financial.
did you just become an attorney like John? I don't understand.
I
What
won't say that
happened?
I didn't
Yeah,
think
that's
of
the
that. I
easy
thought
route.
of that at one time, actually, but I figured there were too many of them, and I had my good buddy John Reilly, so I didn't need to move down that path.
Okay. All right, we'll buy that today, Saul. We'll buy it. I'm just
So,
messing with you.
so dual licensing, right? And so that's a possibility. And so, but what people have to look at that very carefully, and it might definitely be a way to expand your revenue or the average revenue per users, but it's not without potential risks.
You
Okay.
know,
Well,
related to
with that,
that was one of the recent acquisitions was of Redfin, right? Now,
yes,
Redfin has, they don't have independent contractor. They have employees, right, that take W-2 forms. And I thought that that was maybe an immediate attraction uh, uh, to why Rocket acquired Redfin because
Redfin.
they
Yeah.
had a possible exemption or carve out from uh, the regulations because of the status of them being, you know, paid employees. But
Which is
I haven't heard
interesting.
much further on that front.
Yeah, I don't know that, but that's a perfect transition into now the Rocket Mortgage RESPA class action suit, which I'm not as familiar with. So, who wants to take that on and tell us where we're at with that?
Yeah,
Well, I
John's
know
an
we're at the very early stage because it was just last month that that one was filed. So
Yeah, I
we
do
we
know.
haven't seen any of the motions. There hasn't been any discovery yet. And the first one will be a motion to dismiss that Rocket, will bring saying, hey, there's no violation of RESPA here. Uh, and so they'll be looking at that more deeply. I think we'll find more interesting stuff as the Armstrong and Taylor case proceeds with their discovery.
Well,
And,
so
Yeah,
and of
isn't
course, those will be what Saul mentioned. The first major one is whether they can be certified for class action.
class action.
And there's a lot of criteria for that, you know, of having to establish that it's a
Do you think, John,
comprehensive. Yeah.
do you think that before it gets to a class action or they certify the class action lawsuit for Zillow, if it happens, do you think the RESPA piece gets thrown out by any chance on the Zillow side from what you know?
well, it certainly could. I mean, that's Zillow's hope is that it could, but again, it gets to because there's so many of these cases popping up,
Hmm.
and
Well,
because
it's
the
it's
law,
the new it's the new flavor of the year, guys. It's like
yeah, and the
Yeah.
law firms you could count them on one hand,
you can count
pretty
them on
much.
one finger.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same law firms, right? That are now they got this new kind of carrot that they're going after, and it kind of all seems to revolve around this concept of receiving something for something that right quid pro quo or receiving something of value that so the question is what is it and is receiving a lead something of value is receiving a more leads than somebody else based on the amount of business you send is that something of
Yeah.
value and so it very well could be it could be that because every loan is so different and every individual is so different there's no real binding commonality except this idea of receiving something for a settlement connected service, a kickback, so to speak. And so, those people that are experts in RESPA, if you just kind of look at it, it almost looks obvious that you're
Well,
being rewarded for something that you're providing, right? Now, whether or not legally that turns out to be the case, we'll have to wait and see.
Well,
true.
Zillow's position is simply that, hey, we're just giving market exposure to the buyers. They're basically paying for advertising, is what Zillow's case is all about. Whereas the plaintiffs are saying, no, no, really, you're tying into a referral and getting feedback for that referral, getting paid for that, and that's the violation. So it's a difference between you know, advertising versus and marketing, versus referral and kickbacks.
Yeah, and not money referral necessarily, but more leads, right? Better
All right.
leads.
So put a pin on that one and then help me answer this because now I'm trying to figure out yeah, because John, you mentioned something earlier. You said if we're opening up a brokerage or these brokerages that are growing, they need to now have like almost a besides a retainer with these amazing law firms. I would suggest they have just why not just open a law firm and just have a whole bunch of new attorneys that are just handling this whole thing for your big brokerage. But my question is, we did the whole commission thing, which we saw was a whole bunch of crap, right? It was just a money grab by attorneys. That's my opinion. Next, now we're seeing their RESPA reach, right? From what you're seeing, what would be a natural progression of what's next? Any
Uh,
indication?
I, I don't think there's any overt indication, but I would say that when things start to get this complicated and this messy,
Hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if you saw more of the government getting
Stepping in?
involved. Sure.
Hmm. Would you guys think they use the antitrust opening at that point? They're like, hey guys, number one,
Well,
you're earning too much in commission. Don't worry about the attorneys. You're not seeing anything there. Commission and antitrust. We've got to handle this.
could
Yeah,
very well
because
be.
the antitrust is that you're increasing the cost of the transaction for the consumer. So that's where the DOJ comes in. They say we want to have increased competition here, so that it's going to lower the cost. Well, we found out over the last year that the costs really haven't been that diminished after the settlement. Uh, and so, but it's interesting you mentioned about the law firms because um, they're not regulated by RESPA, by the way. The law firms, can participate in the transaction. They're
Well, it
not a
makes sense,
settlement service
John.
provider.
Why would they be regulated by RESPA? Come on.
You're not going
Golden
to get me
rule.
today.
Golden rule. He
I'm,
who makes the gold, he who has the gold rules, and they make the laws, right?
I mean, it seems like it. It's crazy. What guys? What if our world changes and you just need to you just need to become an attorney to run real estate? There's no RESPA violation.
Oh, there's a lot of other reasons too why that's a possibility. I think the only thing that stands in the way, it takes a lot more time to become an attorney than it does to become a real estate agent.
That's true. That's true.
Right?
That fixes the problem that everybody can become a real estate agent, though, isn't it? So,
Everybody becomes an attorney,
yeah, I
right?
know. And then they hate the attorneys more. You get double the hate. This is crazy.
Yeah. So,
All right.
if you think about it, there are a lot of attorneys out there that don't make a lot of money.
Yeah,
There are a lot
very
of them that
true.
do, but there are a lot of them that don't. And real estate is something that they could spread their wings into and to a degree have for a number of years. And if you're given a choice as a consumer, all things being equal and not too much knowledge on your part as a consumer, and they say, would you rather have this real estate agent who's had 3 months of training, or would you rather have this attorney represent you in a transaction? That could provide a threat to the current state of affairs with regard to real estate licensing. Sure.
Yeah. I wonder who takes that on first. John or Saul? This one I didn't know about. So this was when I read your document, this was brand new to me. I'm going to read this out. U.S. District Court for the Western District of Missouri against Veterans United Home Loans and Associated Companies. New class action lawsuit complaint was filed February 18th. Tell me more about this. I'm assuming it's along the lines of steering and RESPA, right?
Yes,
They,
that's basically all we know at this juncture is that the headline that there is now one, but it has it's at the earliest stage. Um, we don't have any motions that have been filed yet. All we have is a complaint. I haven't even read the complaint. I just got the notice a couple of days ago that it was filed, but it's telling us something. It's saying there is now renewed interest in attacks against the mortgage industry itself. And so it's taking
Mm,
on where the one which was the Sister Burnett, the Merrill cases, is where we then had the NAR settlement. But now we're looking at another industry. It's the mortgage industry, but we're seeing what are the hazards and risk of real estate agents now under more focus on the RESPA rules, and I think also the Truth in Lending Act rules.
mm.
Um, and that's where there's going to be a lot of activity and new information coming out over the succeeding months as these motions are filed.
well, and you know
But
what else,
remember how
John? You're
important it was for when they had the lawsuits of how much they went into looking at what the training was in brokerage
Yes,
companies
a
about the
lot.
antitrust. And
That's
now
how they
we're
got
going to
Keller
see the
Williams.
same thing is I mean, what I foresee is definitely having every brokerage office have what I would call a red flag session. And a red flag is basically you have your audience out there and you say, okay, here's a scenario number one. Do you see, raise your red flag if you see an issue here with this statement? and they might come up with these various statements of these are things you should not say when talking to your client about getting good terms on a loan.
So you know this there's a real interesting piece with the loans because
Yeah, tell
loans are
me.
really pretty expensive. And I don't remember the average cost of a loan, but it's like $8,500 or $13,000 when you look at the method in which people get loans and the way that mortgage loan originators are paid. And then what happens to so first you need to get a consumer. So if you look at somebody like ICE, the Intercontinental Exchange, and all of the acquisitions in the life of a loan. The life of a loan starts with somebody looking for a home to buy. So you need a consumer engagement engine. You know what Zillow is? It's a consumer engagement engine. And you know, a lot of these big, so that's where the consumer goes. And then the next step is to get the loan. And then the next step is the loan is packaged. And then the next step is the loan is sold in the secondary market. Then the next step is the loan is serviced. And then over a course of time, that loan might be sold to some other investors until you get down to the, the loan payoff. And of course, by then that loan might have been sold 5 or 6 times. So what system tells us who's the current owner of the loan so we can pay them off? And look at the acquisitions
Mm.
over the last 15 years or so of ICE. And then look at Rocket and Redfin. And you can see that if you can begin to kind of consolidate that loan process, you're going to squeeze costs out, including you can squeeze real estate commissions, you can squeeze loan costs, and all of that talks to affordability. And of course, then, but if you're one of the big entities trying to do this, you got to worry about things like RESPA, antitrust, right? Because you're going to have those things kind of peering over your shoulder as you do it. That's why when the Intercontinental Exchange, ICE, wanted to buy Black Knight, because you think
Hmm.
about it, that's an MLS, and if you're in the loan thing and you can own an MLS, and so they went into buy, they had to actually shed themselves of Optimal Blue before they could complete that
Oh.
Black Knight. They had to shed Optimal
Hmm.
Blue, which was a pricing engine, right? And so behind this stuff in the retail real estate market is the lending story, which is detailed, comprehensive. Someday we'll have some time to talk about ICE and what they
No, it's never gonna happen. I've given up on it. That's so funny. That's true.
That's
That's true.
funny.
Guys,
so
I
they're
think
big players, right?
yeah, it's interesting. I didn't actually notice it until you mentioned it like a few minutes ago. The shift from targeting the real estate companies to the mortgage companies. So usually we follow the money, right? So that makes sense, right? All of these companies have gotten rich ever since the 2008 regulations where the banks weren't participating as much in lending like they were before. So you gave Rocket the opportunity, United, and all these other ones. Interesting. Huh. So if we follow that, does that mean real estate companies, Zillow is it? What did you call it? You called Zillow a consumer facing
Engagement engine, consumer engagement
consumer
engine.
engagement engine. So then that would mean that homes.com falls under there, realtor.com falls under that, and
Redfin,
and Redfin, and possibly a few other ones. And then you have mortgage companies as well, right? Interesting. Those, and I think you could have two separate issues on both, even though they both could have an issue with RESPA. Huh.
yeah.
Huh.
No, so then John brought up this one thing about, well, RESPA has to do with federally regulated lenders, but then I said, well, Fannie and Freddie end up with most of the loans anyway, and aren't they fall into that federally regulated bucket? And
Yeah.
so we'll have lots to talk about, I think.
Yeah, this is crazy, guys. John, keep on sending all that good stuff.
Yeah, I'll try to put a article together. And I think one of the people made a comment that it would be good to have kind of a checklist of red flags, you know. So I'll go work on that checklist. I know I've been doing
Yeah.
something along those
Well,
lines.
and John and I have been talking. I think one of the things we need to develop, and we will, is a list of all the different real estate related cases, the plaintiffs in each case, the defendants in each case,
Dude, that would
the
be
claim
great.
in each case, the progress in each case, and actually have a reference because as we talk
That
about,
would be
it all gets
awesome.
muddled.
Yeah. Guys, that would be beautiful. If we
Yeah,
could
so
do
we'll
that.
work on that.
Um,
Hey,
John, with everything else,
Tristan,
yeah.
Tr Tristan, don't encourage Saul anymore. I mean, I'm
Well,
about to be
it's all gonna
I'm
fall on
about to
you,
hit my
John.
84th birthday in another few weeks, and I thought that I was retired. I told my wife that, but it hasn't worked. Being a partner with Saul for 30 years, you can never retire. So don't
John,
encourage it. Thank you.
84 is the new 54. Relax.
You got it. Perfect. I love it.
You got time,
So,
buddy. You got time.
so, but a couple of weeks before that, I turned 77, and I turned
Okay.
77 on John's wedding anniversary. Right, so he can never forget.
Wow,
Um,
he always remembers your birthday.
Yeah, you know, Saul always calls me on March 3rd to remind me so I don't forget. And then I also call him to remind him how old that he's getting. So
That's funny.
that's the one day we talk every year, March 3rd.
but
It's the only
that's
day, I'm sure.
what they say is if you're in the real estate business, you never retire. You ever
That's
heard
true.
anybody say that?
All the
Living
time,
proof.
man.
Living
All the
proof.
time. Well, I love that you guys aren't retired because I need you still. So I'm sure everybody else needs you too. So, but I love that idea, Saul. That would help out nobody's ever done that. That would help out a lot of people. I
Yeah,
like that.
so
And
I
you know
think
what? We could probably throw that once it's done, or we could probably use Claude to create something like
oh
that, and then
yeah.
John could refine it. But I think what we could do better once it's up, we could have AI look through it and find the things that are relevant, and then maybe even predict what's next based on everything that's there.
So we've actually kind of played around with this, and the more knowledge you have, as you know this with AI, the more knowledge you have of the subject you're querying, the better the output is, right? The better
Yeah,
the response is. So we're getting
dude,
some,
that'd be amazing. Good job. Let's do that. John.
sounds good. We'll do it.
Y-
John will do it.
John.
No, no, no.
Oh, that's the best. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
John, Saul, thank you.